Hello, and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host, Rob. In today's video, we're going to be doing Salty and Saltmarsh Part 3, which will cover us going to the Abbey and our game from last night. So, quick recap. I made a Sorlock who's still technically not even a Sorlock because all I've got is sorcerer levels, so I'm actually just a sorcerer. Sorceress in this case, Ning Ning the Mighty. And our party consists of a fighter, Eldritch Knight, a Kenku rogue, swashbuckler. But every time he goes into melee combat, he just gets immediately destroyed. So lately, he's just been shooting stuff with a hand crossbow. He even took the hand crossbow expert feat. So, I guess he could have a rapier in one hand and like a hand crossbow in the other. That's kind of swashbucklerish, but whatever. Not quite what I imagined for a swashbuckler. He was originally going to multi-class into Battle Master as well, and he was going to take like riposte and some of those type of abilities, right? But he's like, I don't know if I want to go into hand-to-hand combat anymore, because every time I do, I get killed. So hard to fault him there. And so yeah, part one, we did this like supposedly haunted house, but it was actually full of smugglers. We almost died numerous times, like a dozen times over. But at the end, we managed to survive. In part two, we fought a bunch of bullywogs, fought a legendary crocodile, made friends with some lizard folk, and lost Ranger guy who got killed by the crocodile, and his plan to lure the crocodile out of its lair. That plan worked perfectly. The problem was he didn't have a follow-up plan called surviving. And but Ranger guy was big on wisdom and not big on intelligence, I guess. So, it happens. So Ranger guy got killed. He was replaced by fighter guy. The Kenku rogue, though, also then died the very next game session. And we took what was supposed to be our reward for doing the mission and just got the temple to resurrect him instead. So we really didn't even get paid at all, which our cleric was quite disappointed in and quite salty about. However, at this point, the fine, charitable people at the Guild Masters Vias have a new mission for us, to go exterminate a bunch of evil, devil-worshipping cultists on this island that are all in this abbey. And there was some sort of attack on the abbey, that's all people know, but they think the cultists are probably weak and vulnerable right now, and so this is the perfect time to strike. So I'm like, okay, well, they're probably just a bunch of like innocent, lawful good clerics of like St. Cuthbert or something like that, or it's like an orphanage full of poor children or something like that. But no, it actually turned out to be Asmodeus worshipping cultists. Of course, we later realized this. Well, not even later. We basically realized as soon as we found that out, we're like, oh yeah, this is just another example of the cult of Ayas wiping out their competitors. So they can be the, one cult to rule them all or something. I don't know. There can only be one. Sort of other pop references that apply. Anyways, so we get on our boat, the Sea Ghost, that we captured from a different group of smugglers at the behest of our evil cultist of Ayas, and we go sailing out to the island. We do make a stop at like this lighthouse. We talk to the guy. I was actually worried that he might be a cultist secretly, because I figured that, you got a guy at the lighthouse and he seems to know about the Abbey. It's logical he's probably connected to the Abbey. But actually, I think it just turned out he was a normal guy. I don't know. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert again. Obviously, we're going to be revealing stuff from the campaign because this is a campaign review. So, whatever. I was faster this time, though. We're only like 5 minutes into this video, not 8 or 10. So, improvements have been made. Man, I'm terrible. Anyways, we are warned, though, by the lighthouse keeper, whatever it is, light guy, that the island is full of undead for some reason. So we're like, okay, but it turned out there was a safe path through. We just had to find it, which of course we didn't. So we just made a beeline straight for the Abbey and had to fight hordes of undead. It was rather annoying. Mostly skeletons and zombies and stuff, so it wasn't like a serious threat. We're like level 5 at this point. So, I've gotten third level spells. I will say, though, there have been plenty of campaigns where I've taken things like Hypnotic Pattern and Fireball. And so in this one, I was like, I always take those spells. I'm not going to bother taking them this time. Not that they're not great. They are. Like, we already all know that. I'm like, but I'm trying to do this whole, like, battlefield control thing, and then I'm going to use my Warlock levels to get Eldritch Blast with Repelling Blast, and I'm going to have, like, Web, and I get Hunger of Hadar for free from the Aberrant Mind spell list, Evoid's Black Tentacles from the spell list, and I'm just going to push these guys, like, back into those kind of effects, right? And I'm just going to play style. And I already know if I have Fireball, I'm just going to cast Fireball way too often, right? So I'm just not even going to tempt myself. So I got one new spell, because I'm a sorcerer, right? I took Counterspell. And I could have retrained a different spell to take something like Fireball. But I was like, I'm getting Sending, which, whatever. But I'm also getting Hunger of Hadar. And I'm going to use Hunger of Hadar instead. I'm not going to take Fireball. And that is a choice that I have regretted multiple times already. It's every time we get in a fight, I'm like, could he really use the Fireball right now? It's just a terrible decision. But that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. Like I said, I always take it. I was going to say it's not going to kill us if I don't take it once, but it might, actually. We've had multiple deaths already. So anyways, we finally... I forgot about the freaking veteran pirate guys. Yeah, so we killed a bunch of skeletons and undead. And at one point, we get basically ambushed almost, but I have the alert feat, so I am not ambushed. We get basically ambushed by this group of pirate guys, and they're all trying to shoot us with their freaking crossbows, right? And they suck. They cannot hit a single thing. And I throw Hunger of Hadar on them, and I hit like 3 or 4 of them with it, right? And so it's doing some damage, and now they're blind, and it's difficult terrain, so they're having to like try to dash in order to get out of it, and we're trying to engage them at range, the ones that we can see, the ones that aren't in the darkness, of course. And, of course, fighter guy, though, it's not like he's going to use a bow or a crossbow. He's not even going to throw a javelin. He has a glaive. So, obviously, he's going to use a glaive. I mean, come on. He spent $18 on that miniature with the glaive, remember? Obviously, he has to use the glaive. Like, come on, what's going on here? He took Polearm Mastery even. He's all in on the glaive. So he decides to go rushing in. So the guys who managed to escape from the darkness now have one party member up near them, and there's 6 of them. So guess who they decide to attack? The one party member over near them. And it turns out they sucked with their heavy crossbows because they don't really have super high dexterities, and they only get 1 attack a round. But they actually have decent strength and multi-attack if they're using long swords or scimitars or rapiers or anything of that nature. So suddenly, these guys went from being like, these guys suck, they can't even hit anything, to suddenly just beating on the fighters. So Cleric, she goes running to try to help them. And something that was quite hilarious, I thought. She just got Spirit Guardians, of course, because we're level 5. So she decides to cast Spirit Guardians and then starts running towards them, right? But she can't dash because she already used her action to cast Spirit Guardians. So one of them ends up shooting the Cleric as she's running in. And she loses concentration on Spirit Guardians before she even does a single point of damage with it. She hasn't even reached them yet. They're still outside of the range of Spirit Guardians, and she's already lost concentration on the spell. This fight, by the way, goes about as bad as a fight can go without us actually losing any party members. It was just a disaster. So, fighter guy's getting beat on, but he's got 19 armor class. He's got full plate armor. He took the defensive fighting style, right? Claire's got like 21 armor class or something because she's got plate mail +1 and a shield, right? So, they're really solid, right? And, if somebody maybe, healed the fighter potentially, he'd probably have some real staying power. But the person with the heals also has spiritual weapon and shatter. And, who needs healing when you can cast shatter? Plus, she's a Tempest Domain cleric, so she's going to use her channel divinity to max damage that shatter spell, which she does. And, as an added bonus, hits the fighter. Now, the fighter does have absorb elements, so he was okay with it. He's like, oh, it's okay. He goes, I got a saving throw for half. I've got absorb elements, so I'm going to take like a quarter damage. which he did. He actually made a saving throw, so good on him. But, it's just, he's already got like 6 guys beating on him, and now this, right? So the 2 of them are up there, and the rogue goes running in to try to help, and he's got like this, I think he's got his hand crossbow in one hand, but he's got the crossbow expert feat at this point, so he doesn't have to worry about disadvantage, right? And he's got his rapier, but he just ends up getting owned. So the rogue ends up going down and almost done again. He's making death saving throws, right? And of course, the cleric is too busy trying to damage people. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to use my action to feed a potion to the rogue with Mage Hand and get the rogue back up into the fight again. So cool, rogue's back up. He immediately gets hit and goes down again. So I now have to use another potion because, of course, he's not getting healed. Who are we kidding? You already know. We got a DPS cleric, okay? That is her job. She is not healing, okay? I mean, sure, she has healing spells, but come on. Don't be ridiculous. Anyways, so I use another potion and heal the rogue. He gets hit again, but he does not go down. He has like 1 or 2 hit points left. So he decides to just use his cunning action and he attacks, and disengages, and he just decides, I'm just going to run back by the sorcerer. Oh, I did have guys on me at one point, but because I have Fey Touched, I just used Misty Step and moved away, and then they were just closer to everybody else, so they just went for them instead. So he's moved over by me now, and the 2 of us are just range attacking, and I just dropped concentration on Hunger of Hadar. At one point, I cast Web and hit like 4 of the pirates with Web. All 4 made their saving throws and moved out of the web. I'm like, and I have a decent spell save DC. I think it's like a 14 at that point, right? I mean, it's not phenomenal, but 0 for 4. 0 for 4. These guys don't even have great dexterity. But the entire night, Mike's just rolling like 14s, 15s, 19s, 20s, just the entire game. Plus, whatever bonuses they have on top of that. And it is not going good. So, fighter guy is just taking a ton of damage at this point. At one point, he's down to like 3 hit points. So he decides, he uses Second Wind. And he rolls and he heals himself up to like 13 health again, I think, right? He heals for like 10. He then immediately gets hit and takes 12 damage and goes down to 1. He does not go down, though, during the fight. So at least there's that. But he's like hanging on, and like he goes a couple of rounds with like multiple guys targeting him, and he's like using shield, and I'm using silvery barbs to try to keep him alive and stuff. So he's going through multiple rounds, and he's got like 1 hit point, and it's just guys attacking him, but never quite being able to hit him. And of course, the cleric at one point, she decides once again to cast Shatter. So at this point, her and the fighter are actually kind of separated. And the fighter has like 2 guys on him, cleric's got 3 on her. But because fighter's almost dead, me and the rogue are trying to help the fighter. So we're concentrating on the one guy, and we managed to drop the one guy, and the fighter finally, between he's missing a lot, but he does have 2 attacks. Like he has 1 attack around, plus, he's got 2 attacks around, right? Because we're all at 5. So he's got his 2 attacks around, plus he's got the bonus action attack from the polearm. So between his 3 attacks around, essentially, even though he's rolling like crap as well, he is managing to do quite a bit of damage. Like him and the rogue are really the 2 that are kind of carrying us through at this point, right? Because I'm getting pretty low in spell slots. I've used Scorching Ray, I've used Web, I've used Hunger of Hadar, I've cast a couple of spells here and there. Like I'm at the point now where I think I cast like Magic Missile a couple of rounds in a row, and now I'm just like firebolting guys, So we are just running on fumes. So anyways, cleric of course decides. She's got 3 people on her. And you think, okay, I'm pretty sure she's got 1 more 3rd level spell slot. She could use the Spirit Guardians. This would be the perfect time for it. You got 3 guys on you. Perfect opportunity. It's a long fight. It's gone multiple rounds. Like, it's gonna do some damage. But no, instead, she decides to cast Shatter. Because the fighter told her she should cast Spirit Guardians. So, of course, she's not casting Spirit Guardians. She's going to upcast Shatter. Or maybe she didn't upcast it. I can't remember. Either way, she casts Shatter. And she centers it on the guy right in front of her. And we're like, well, that's going to hit you too. She's like, I don't care. so she does. She casts Shatter, hits everybody, including herself. She ends up going down, not from the Shatter spell. Left her with like 3 or 4 hit points left, but then one of them hit her, and so she's unconscious. making death saving throws. The rogue's still got like 3 hit points left or whatever he's at this point, or 1. Maybe it was 1 or 2. I can't remember. He's at like, I think it was 3. Cleric's got 0 and making death saves. The fighter has 1. I'm like missing 4 hit points. There's 5 hit points or something like that, and that's it. But we finally managed to like drop them all and win the fight, and we got like nothing left, right? So we decided, okay, we've got to take a long rest. But I'm also worried we're out in the middle of a freaking desert full of undead. Like, what if we get attacked? Like, we got nothing, But Eldest Knight guy's like, well, I do have Find Familiar. I could have my like owl sit rest, because that's the thing too. Like, all of us needed a long rest, right? Like I was the healthiest, but I got no spell slots left. I got no sorcery point left. I got nothing, right? Cleric's got nothing, including spells or hit points, right? Nobody's got anything, right? So we all need to rest. So we're like, okay, so we risk it. We manage to get through the night, though. We take our long rest. We continue our way to the Abbey, fighting more hordes of undead. But like I said, at this point, the undead aren't really that much of a problem. So we get to the Abbey. And the rogue's like, okay, I'm going to sneak up ahead. I'm going to try to scout out and make sure things look safe. Right? We fought some like manticores. I think it was manticores at some point too. And I managed to bring one of them to the ground with web. Because I don't know if anybody's bothered to read the spell closely enough. But web is phenomenal against flying creatures that don't have a hover speed. Because if they fail to save me so, they just fall to the ground. Now, if the web isn't anchored, which it isn't, then it disappears like the next round. But I mean, it's a low-level spell, doesn't say like Earthbind, and it's actually better in my opinion. So, there's a reason I didn't get rid of web. I was like, I've got Hunger for Dar now. Should I keep web? Like, or yes, we should keep web. So, anyways, we decide the rogue sneaks up and he's like trying to scout the area, right? But for whatever reason, he decides he's going to try to go make contact with the people in the Abbey, and the rogue's okay. I'm not trying to brag but I am the sorceress. I'm the charisma person in the party, right? But anyway, so the rogue goes up and he starts trying to talk to these people, and he's like, hey, and they've got like this like room, and it's kind of like barricaded, because it turns out they were attacked by pirates who looted the Abbey and burnt the thing down, and now the surviving cultists are trying to, get by with create food and drinks, and that's how they're surviving essentially, right? So rogue guy's like, we're not sure yet that they're cultists. We've been told that by the guild masters or the quartermasters of Ayaz, but we have already established they're not exactly the most trustworthy people out there. So who knows if we can really count on anything they say. So the rogue's like, look, we've got a boat. We can put you guys on the boat, and we can get you guys off the island. And as soon as he says that, they're like, they've got a boat! Kill them and take the boat! And we're like, crying out loud. So we end up getting this big fight. And there's a ton of these guys. There's like 15, 16, 14, somewhere around there. And I decide I'm going to use Hunger of Hadar again. Now, the nice thing about this is that Hunger of Hadar fills almost the entire room. There's like a little 10-foot strip basically around the entire outside where people aren't in the Hunger of Hadar, since I cast it in the middle of the room. But it manages to damage a bunch of them, and some of them are still in it. So it's causing some problems. But it turns out they do have some clerics, and some of those clerics have Dispel Magic. So one of them decides to cast Dispel Magic on Hunger of Hadar. And I'm like, well, technically I think they have to be able to see the darkness. And he's like, well, whatever. He's in the darkness. And I'm like, and then I'm thinking, well, I can't counterspell it either, because I can't see him because he's in the darkness. And I think that you probably could be able to dispel dark. I mean, if you want to get really technical, you're supposed to be able to see the area or the thing you're casting, and you're blind, but you're just casting it at the darkness itself. So whatever. I mean, you can see the darkness if you're inside darkness, I guess. So whatever. He dispels it, and I lose Hunger of Hadar. So I decide next round I'm going to recast Hunger of Hadar. And then he casts a spell magic on it again. And I'm like, well, I'm out of third level spell slots. So I start trying to convert some of my sorcery points into spell slots. Some of my lower spell slots into sorcery points, and sorcery points into spell slots. And I'm planning on recasting it. But at this point, it's actually starting to get kind of in the way. So I'm like, okay, screw it. I'm just going to cast a web instead, right? So I cast web on a bunch of guys, and a bunch of them all failed their saving throws, unlike the freaking pirates from earlier, where nobody failed a saving throw. So of course my allies decide to go for all the people who aren't webbed, because why would you concentrate on the guys that you have advantage against? Come on, obviously that's not happening. So we decide to pick the most difficult targets. The fight's kind of going back and forth for a little bit. We actually managed to get the cleric to actually cast. Oh no, wait! She cast healing spells out of combat. That's right. She didn't cast. What am I thinking? Obviously, that didn't happen. That was just a fever dream, I guess. Anyways, we do manage to back out at one point, because I wish we were going to get overwhelmed. So I'm like, okay, let's lead them back into the hallway outside of this room, and then their numbers will count to nothing. That's what I learned from 300. So let's pull them into the hallway. But they decided to just barricade the door and shut the doors and barricade it and leave us out in the hallway. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. We can take a short rest. We can get action surge back. That's good at least. We can get a couple other resources back. I can figure out what I want to do with some of these lower spell slots. Maybe convert them into, maybe get a third little spell slot back, so we can use another Hunger of Hadar if we need. But maybe we're better off with web. I haven't decided yet. So anyway, we decided to try to talk to them. Oh, and also, one of them was like a bard. And the bard actually snuck out of the room invisibly, and he tries casting Friends on me, or Charm Person, one of the two. But of course, targeting the sorcerer with high charisma on a charisma save, who's also charisma save proficient, probably wasn't his best choice. So I make the saving throw, and then the bard's like, wait, don't kill me. I know there's a secret. And the fighter guy's just like, don't care. Just immediately kills him. So then the DM starts calling the fighter guy a murder hobo, and that turns into a big argument, and now fighter guy's getting salty. So once again, the salt must flow, right? Although to be fair to fighter guy, I don't think Jaden was really being a murder hobo. We tried to parlay with these guys. We even told them we could give them a ride off the island. They immediately decided to try to kill us and take our boat. And then one of them just sneaks out invisibly and tries to cast a spell on the sorceress. And then when that fails, because we didn't know what spell it was, we just knew he tried to cast a spell on me. And then he's like, oh, wait, don't kill me. And fighter guy's like, no, too bad. But whatever. Anyways, we do manage to get back into the compound again, though. And we end up fighting the rest of the cultists. And at this point, we managed to win and clear out the rest of the evil cult. So then we start searching around the place. And behind this one tapestry, we find a secret door that leads into this ancient dungeon complex that apparently nobody even knew about except for the bard. This is the secret the bard was going to tell us about, right? Maybe the high priest guy knew, the one with the spell magic, who knows? But it doesn't appear that any of them knew, except for probably the bard. So we start going through this dungeon, and it's like we're just complete dungeon noobs or something. We don't bother searching for traps, really. At least not at the beginning. We're not using a 10-foot pole or anything like that. We're just mostly relying on the rogue to find traps with his investigation skill. And he found a few, but he found a lot more of them with his face, usually. There was one point where we found a secret door, and then we go down this hallway, and it comes to a dead end. And then we find another secret door. And we open the secret door. The only thing in the room is a ballista trap that shot fighter guy straight in the chest, did a bunch of damage. And so we're searching the room. There's literally nothing else there. And somebody rolled a 19 or something for the investigation skill roll plus bonuses. Our DM usually uses investigation for actually finding traps and stuff instead of perception. I don't know, that's just the way he likes to do it. But that's okay. Perception gets used for lots of stuff. Investigation less so, right? So maybe it balances it out a bit. But anyways, so then fighter guy's like, wait, so we had to find a secret door that led to another secret door that led to this secret door, and the only thing here was a ballista trap? Who builds a dungeon this way? So he was all mad about that. It was pretty funny, actually. And then as we're going along through this stupid dungeon, there's just traps everywhere. It's like a Tomb of Horrors level of traps, right? Well, maybe not quite that bad. No spheres of annihilation or anything like that. But anyways, that we found. At one point, rogue guy finds this pit trap, and he falls in, takes some damage from falling and spikes, right? And later we find this illusionary floor with an acid pit trap. So of course the rogue falls under the acid pit. So rogue's taking quite a bit of damage at this point. Cleric actually heals us all up again. We decide to take a short rest as well. And fighter guy's like, okay, do you know what? Since we're using investigation to find the traps, I'll go first. I'm an Eldritch Knight. I've got the highest intelligence in the party. I've also got the most hit points. I'll go in the front. That makes sense. So he decides to take the lead. So he, of course, sets up a couple traps. He finds a few and manages to disarm them. And then a couple of them, he literally just doesn't find them, sets them off, takes the damage, falls into a pit trap, falls into an acid pit, So he's starting to get pretty bad. So at this point, he decides, I'm going to make an investigation roll for every single square of the dungeon. So needless to say, this does not get tedious or boring in any way. So he's literally rolling every single square we want to go through. And at one point he finds a pit trap, like a spike pit trap, right? So he asks how far across it is, and the DM says it's 10 feet. So he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to jump over the pit trap then. Can I jump that far? And so we're looking at him, we're like, yeah, you can definitely jump that far, right? So he jumps over the pit trap. And it turns out directly on the other side of the pit trap, separated by like a 3-foot wall, is a false floor with an acid pit trap. So he jumps over the spike pit, hits the false floor, falls through into the acid pit. And oh man, was he ever bitter and angry about this? He's just like, ah! Oh, it was so funny. Who designed a dungeon like this? Oh man, so much salt. I was like, just great. But anyways, eventually we finally find like the treasure room, right? And, we open the doors and there's just, the whole place is just lined with treasure chests. There's like gold everywhere, the entire room. It was like a dragon's hoard. There's just gold piled up and mountains and stuff, right? And in the middle of the room, there's like this statue. I think it was only one statue. It might have been two, but I think it was one. And everybody's like, okay, this is obviously a trap. We're going to touch something, the statue is going to come to life, whatever, right? So then the fighter's like, yeah, okay, so everybody stay outside the room. I'm going to go in and I'm going to try to start cautiously searching and exploring, right? So he walks in, trying to see if anything happens. Nothing happens, right? So he starts looking and he's searching everything. And by the way, our DM, he doesn't just let you search a room, right? Because we did this in one of the rooms earlier in the Abbey. We said we were searching the room. There was a bookshelf, there was a desk, there was a couple of things. And, we're like, okay, we'll search the room. We didn't find anything. So then we go on and a couple of rooms later, somebody's like, we didn't find anything in that desk. And the DM's like, you didn't search the desk. I was like, well, yeah, we did. We said we searched the room. He's like, yeah, you searched the room. You didn't search the desk or the bookshelf or anything. We're like, ah. So we have to go back, make more search rolls to go through this desk and to go through the bookshelf and go through whatever else was in there, So at this point, fighter guy's getting annoyed because he's having to make just investigation and perception rolls just constantly for everything he wants to do, right? And I'm just like, look, let's just set off the trap. The best way to find the trap is just to activate the trap. We already know we're going to take something, the thing's going to come to life, right? And he's like, nobody set off the trap. So then he's still searching stuff, and I'm just like, okay, I cannot handle this anymore. I'm like, I cast Mage Hand, and with my Mage Hand, I pick up one of the gold pieces from the floor. And he's like, why would you do that? And then the DM's like, the statue comes to life. It's like, oh, wow, what a surprise. And of course, the statue attacks the nearest thing, which is fighter guy, because he's the only person in the room. The rest of us are all still outside the room. I mean, at this point, we've been there for an hour just watching fighter guy slowly poke around the room. I mean, come on, can you blame me for wanting something to happen? Of course not. I mean, not now in real life, Tom. I mean, not poor characters, Ning Ning has ADHD, okay? I just decided that right now. She has that, so that's her excuse. So she casts Mage Hand, picks up a gold piece, thing comes to life, attacks fighter guy. And of course, he's getting beat on, but we all come in and help him. In the end, we destroy the statue thing, right? And turns out all of the gold pieces are just wood painted gold. Classic. Who doesn't love that? And in one of the treasure chests, we find a note saying haha, suckers, you'll never find the real treasure or something along those lines, right? So we decided to start searching the room, and sure enough, we find a secret door. And this door, thankfully, leads to the real treasure room. Thank goodness. So we end up finding the real treasure room. And I just remember we did get some decent treasure. We got a lot of money and stuff. But I remember my plan, of course, I'm only a sorcerer right now. But as I've mentioned, I'm going to be going Sorlock. I'm planning on going into Hexblade Warlock. And when I go Hexblade, I'll be able to wear medium armor and use a shield. So we find a mithril breastplate. And I'm like, sweet, medium armor? I'm going to be able to wear that next level. And then everyone in the party is like, oh, well, we could just sell it though. And I'm like, why? Like, I could just wear it next level. And then I don't have to buy one. And I'm like, nobody else is wearing medium armor. The cleric's wearing +1 plate mail. Fighter's got plate mail. Rogue's wearing studded leather. Like, the only one who's going to use medium armor is me. Like, and honestly, that's perfect. Like, you know, I've got 7 strength. I don't want to be walking around in half plate. Come on, I'm going to look ridiculous. I'm like 5'3" and 94 pounds. Like, come on. You know, breastplate's perfect. Vessel breastplate, even better. Weightless, essentially. You know, I've got 7 strength. I don't need to be carrying out a heavy breastplate all day. Everybody parties, I'm like, okay, if we find a magic hand crossbow, are we going to sell that or are we going to give it to the rogue? Oh, that's right. We're going to give it to the rogue, aren't we? And I was like, okay, fine. You can have the breastplate. I'm like, why was this even an issue? It's not like there were 5 people who needed a breastplate. The only one who could wear it was me. So anyways, that's what I also remember. So anyway, we finally come back to town and we decide to, the quartermaster of Ayaz decided to reward us as well. They gave us a magic item and they also said that we could purchase anything from the storehouse at a slight discount since we are now officially members of the quartermaster of Ayaz. They even gave us tabards and everything. So we're feeling pretty special, of course, in our evil cult of chaos god worshipping lunatics. So I don't know if I should have been able to find this or not, but I decided to ask the DM. He said that we could find like any uncommon items, right? So I started going through Tasha's because there's one thing in particular I wanted, and that was the Bloodwell Vial. If everybody's not familiar with it, it's basically like the Rod of the Pact Keeper, but for sorcerers instead of warlocks, right? So basically, it comes in a +1, +2, or +3 variety, each one getting more rare. So the only one I knew I'd have a chance on is the +1. But it gives you a +1 to your spell attack rolls, a +1 to your spell save DC, and if you take a short rest where you spend hit dice to recover hit points, you can also recover up to 5 sorcery points. And that's universal for any of the rarities, right? And I was like, man, I've only got 5 sorcery points right now. Well, actually, we just leveled to 6, but whatever. I had 5 sorcery points. And, whatever. I'm like, that, even if you use it once a day, that doubles your sorcery points. Now, this is awesome. And +1 to my spell attack rolls, that's pretty good at this level. +1 to my spell save DCs, even better at this level, in my opinion. Now, granted, it only affects my sorcerer spells. It's not going to count with Eldritch Blast, right? But whatever. I mean, I still casting a lot of control spells, right? So I'm like, okay, well, you have one of those. So he rolls. Sure enough, they do. I managed to buy one, cost most of my gold, and then the rest of my gold I loaned to fighter guy so he could buy himself a +1 glaive, which is also a good investment. We had like no magic weapons. We had rogue with silver tipped crossbow bolts for his hand crossbow. So, we were kind of hurting in that department. I mean, we do have the cleric with magic attacks. We got me with spell attacks. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but still, like, our 2 big damage dealers are fighter guy and rogue. So, it's nice that they actually, rogue got a magic hand crossbow, and I think he got a +1 rapier or something as well. I can't remember. Or no, it was a +1 dagger. That's what it was. But still nice, So hopefully things are starting to work out a little better for us there. And we'll be like well geared and better prepared going forward. So that's going to do it for part 3. We actually did play again last night, but I'll probably save that for to combine with the session after this. Although I think we're playing Fallout next time, and I don't know if we're going to play D&D again the next week. So it might be a few weeks before we have another game. But either way, like I said, I got the 2024 Player's Handbook, so I can make some videos and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was it for Salty and Saltmarsh, episode 3. There's been plenty of salt. I'm pleased to say that episode 1 was mostly me, but episodes 2 and 3, not so much. I've been having a pretty good time. And a lot of it was laughing at the misfortune of my party members, which is indirectly my own misfortune, but, if you can't laugh at your own misfortune, then who can you laugh at besides your party members, of course, which you laugh at all the time, obviously. But anyways, that's everything. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. There we go. And most importantly, leave me your comments in the comment section. I do read every comment. I know I haven't been as active on my channel lately as I mean to be, and I sometimes don't read stuff for like a couple of weeks. But I promise you, I still read every comment. Sometimes I just go a week or two, and I'm like, I should check in on my YouTube page, which I've been giving almost no attention to lately. But whatever. It happens. I'll try to be better in the future, though. But anyways, that's everything. Thanks for watching. Good night.